Peace, blessings, and elevation to another episode of the Freeway to Elevation, where we are extremely blessed today to welcome another dynamic episode of a phenomenal coach, wife, leadership expert, as well as an individual who is leading those who are in the academic system and training people how to leverage emotional intelligence to impact themselves, community, as well as organizations in every space that they show up in. So without any further ado, I will introduce you to Miss Nicole Smith.
Well, hello. How is everyone doing? How are you, Mr. Kelly?
I am blessed and grateful.
Yes, I am as well. I'm always grateful. At least I attempt to be every day.
I'm glad you said that, Nicole, because what I'm going to start off by asking you is, tell me two things that you are grateful for.
And just two things. That's so hard because there's so much that I'm grateful for. But if I was to narrow it down to two things, I have to say number one, my mindset. I'm very grateful for my mindset because I like to say I have a growth mindset. And I'm willing to understand, who I am, my identity, the strength in my, strengthening my skill set. And I'm very, very grateful for that. In the fact that I can shift my mindset to be able to see different perspectives every day, because every day we see something different. So I'm very grateful for my mindset. Number two, Kelly, it has to be my family and friends, because they've grown with me throughout this journey of mine, and they support me. And so I'm very grateful for them every day.
And Nicole, I think this is the first time I did this, but since you said your family and friends, go ahead and shout out your amazing family, because I too, like you, think that it's extremely important to recognize those who walk along this journey intimately with us.
Yes.
They are a part of that evolution that has positioned us to be where we are today.
Absolutely. So, I do give a shout out specifically or especially to my husband, Marcus Smith, who we've been together for 27 years. We've been married for 24, and he is what I call my biggest fan, a supporter of me and my business. I think he has assigned himself the CFO position. I'm not too sure about that, but he has supported me, because without him specifically, I would not have been able to take that jump forward in regards to leaving the corporate world and being able to serve in my purpose and do what I do in my business full time. So I don't have a side gig, my friends. This is full time. I run my business, JMS Creative Leadership Solutions. And so my husband supports me, but also too, I have to say, thank you to my mommy and daddy, because if it wasn't for them pushing me and always cheering me on, even to this day, I call them and tell them all the good news in my business and, my financials and stuff. Cause my dad is a financial guru. So,
Wow.
Yeah. So I give those people shout out, but Kelly, I have tons of family, my cousins, my baby cousins and so forth that I'm really close to, that support me and cheer me on. And you know what? Sometimes that's all it takes. It's just them supporting you and cheering you on. I'm not looking for my family and friends to purchase in my business. I mean, that would be nice, but just in regards to just standing by me and being my soundboard and just supporting me in what I'm doing and just saying, you got this. That's everything to be grateful for. Everything.
Oh, so you don't went down the path of holding space, inspiration. Listen, I need y'all to see the intonation, the changes, the pauses, the mastery. Like, this didn't just happen overnight, right?
No. And to that point, I tell individuals there is no such thing as an overnight success. There's no such thing as an overnight success. This didn't happen overnight. I was in the corporate world for 25 years.
Wow.
Okay. You know how much I learned and how I was able to craft or practice my craft and practice my strengths. Okay, being able to hone into my strengths, understand what I'm really good at, because listen, I don't ever want to be a jack of all trades and a master of none. So I really honed in on my craft and my talent and my strengths. And what people are seeing today is just the boom, is the result of everything that I've put into it, the blood, sweat, and tears. So I appreciate you recognizing that, Kelly, because this has been a lot of work for me. And still to this day, I still practice my craft. I still have to practice. That's where that growth mindset comes in.
Let me tell you something. Like you just said, when you look at our journey in life and those critical moments, or what I like to call those cross sections or intersections, where preparation meets opportunity, and you do exactly what you're doing right now, which is to execute. And you're giving people something to really ascend to.
Right.
And a lot of people are not genuine and authentic enough to say, you know what? Just because I'm an expert doesn't mean that I do it perfectly all the time.
Right.
And and I'm still on that journey.
Yes, this is where that whole perfectionism, when people are striving for perfection, I pause for a minute. I don't strive for perfection, because perfection does not allow for mistakes. It doesn't allow for any growth. So I tell individuals, if you strive for excellence, just being the best version of yourself every day, knowing that if you didn't do good today, you can say your prayers tonight, get a good night's rest, and wake up tomorrow and attempt to be better tomorrow, right? So strive for that excellence. Excellence allows for those mistakes. It allows for you to give yourself grace and mercy, because we give it to everybody else all day long. But I need you to stop striving for that perfection, right? Have that growth mindset. Be able to make mistakes and learn from the mistake. This is where I say, Kelly, if you don't make a mistake, go ahead and make it. Fail fast. Fail forward. Go ahead and get it over with. So you can get up and just continue being the best version of yourself. And that's the beauty of each day, right? Because you can be the best version of yourself, and you can keep doing it over and over and over again. If you don't get it right the day before, try it the next day.
I love it, love it, love it.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I love talking with people about, when they have this definition of perfection, I tell people I'm perfect all the time, but I only tell them I'm perfect because the Creator made us and He makes no mistakes.
Right.
So in the word imperfect, when you put the apostrophe in there and separate the two, it says I'm perfect with all my flaws, my deficiencies, my strengths, my opportunities, and any threats that align themselves to me. So I just love how you kind of frame that out so that people understand, like, don't be striving for this fictitious version of perfection.
Right. This pseudo perfect, what society tells us is perfect. I think it's probably a good way of putting it as well, to go along with your definition as well. It's just what society says is perfect. And, this is where I say, these expectations that you're living up against, is like, who are you comparing yourself to? What expectations? Who set those expectations? And you're living up to someone or their expectation, or they or them. And I keep saying who's they and who's them. So, living up to your expectations and only comparing yourself to yourself. You compare yourself to your competencies and expectations that you've set for yourself. It just, what, Kelly, just makes life a little bit easier, and it just helps remove all that noise.
Yes.
Have all that noise that you have, and it just provides that clarity. And that's a big word I use in my coaching programs, is clarity. Once you have clarity, oh my goodness, it's like putting on those new glasses we have, Kelly. You just gain some clarity and didn't realize the leaves had so much detail in them, but you're able to see so much clearer now. You're able to see a little bit further down the road, because then you can take that first step in your journey. And because you see the staircase, just a little bit easier. You see down the road just a little bit clearer if you have that clarity. Absolutely.
That's an amazing, strong foundation that you just kind of oriented us to. And so since you went there, I would like to ask you this, right? Who has been the inspiration, or what was the inspiration that aligned you to what your purpose was?
Oh gosh. I think who has been an inspiration for me? I think it might go back to the question of who am I grateful for? Because my mom and my daddy, as I say, and I'll tell you in a minute why I always say daddy. Okay, there's a significance in that. I grew up in a very emotionally charged household, and so seeing things play out in my household, it wasn't traumatizing for me. I don't want anybody to think, oh, she had a bad childhood. No, I didn't have a bad childhood. My daddy was in the Air Force. We lived a good life. They took care of us. We were considered that middle class, nice cars, nice house, and nice clothes, all that good stuff. But just emotionally charged, because we dealt with mental illness. We dealt with lack of communication and so forth. So they inspired me. One, just from the unconditional love they gave me because of things that were going on, that unconditional love, that no matter what was going on, they still showed me that love. But also too, that inspiration in how I wanted my lifestyle to be when I got older, right? I didn't want how the disruption that was in their house. I didn't want that. My household to this day is very different. I have people continuously telling me when they come to my house or they spend time in my house or family comes, they say it's just so quiet and peaceful and calm. That's on purpose. That's on purpose in my house. And I don't mind, we do have loud discussions at times, but it was just my parents inspired me, good and bad, in regards to the lifestyle that I wanted, And I tell my parents, thank you, in regards to just, like I said, the unconditional love that they showed me. So that was an inspiration for me. But also too, my husband is an inspiration for me because my husband does also have that calm spirit. I think the energy and the lifestyle that I was looking for, I exuded it. I put that out there. I put that energy out there. And I attracted that energy from my husband. So he's calm. He doesn't really get riled up. He likes also too the calm household, calm in our relationship, communication, just all those key things in a healthy marriage. So he inspires me also too. He can get over things a little faster sometimes than I can. So he inspires me in that way to say, okay, don't sweat the small stuff, that type of thing. And just also too, how he treats members in his family, how he treated his mom, God rest her soul, how he, treats his sister and so forth. It's just with such a sense of kindness and with such heart. And so he inspires me as well. So, going back to where I said, I call, my dad daddy, is because he's my stepdad, as they say in the book. He's my stepdad. Okay. He raised me since I was 4 years old. So he's my daddy, right? My biological father was kind of in and out. But my daddy, him being such an inspiration, at a young age, he took me on as his bonus daughter, right? And to this day, I am a daddy's girl. We are so close. Like if I don't talk to him throughout the week, I'm like, well, no. But I mean, and it's so funny. We don't have the same DNA, but do you know how much we are alike? It's just scary to where that nature versus nurture theory. Yeah, and I think him and I are probably even closer than his biological children, except my little brother. But it's just, he was that inspiration for me. He's always been there. You talk about Black fathers rock. Yeah, my daddy is one of those. And so inspiration in regards to also to how they say you marry your father. Yep. Yeah. I think I did. I say that all the time. I married my dad. So, he inspired me again. It was seeing everything that was going on in my childhood, my teenagehood, my young adulthood, which has truly, truly inspired how my life is today. And this is where I challenge people. look back at your childhood and really look to see, did that influence how your lifestyle is or is not today? Right? So this is where, and when I say that to people, they go, huh, yeah. People don't realize how much your childhood influences your lifestyle.
Yes.
They don't realize that.
You know what? That's such an amazing point of emphasis to really focus on. Because when we look at decisions and choices,
Right.
it's often kind of preceded by a lack thereof something,
right,
or an appreciation of something that you've seen in your past that you want to carry forward. And so since you went there, help me kind of conceptualize how that plays a factor in this conversation around emotional intelligence.
Wow. You know, I didn't realize. So my emotional intelligence level, let me start here. My emotional intelligence level, my emotional quotient, how I understand my behavior and manage it, right, is higher than average.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, okay, where does that come from? Where does it come from? Well, it comes from something, you know, in my research, in my development, in my learning of emotional intelligence, right? But also too, when I was growing up, I was using my emotional intelligence even at a young age. There is like significant research in regards to children and their emotional intelligence. But I was using my emotional intelligence at a young age and didn't even realize it. Because growing up, remember I said I had an emotionally charged household. I was seeing the way the adults reacted to situations. Mm-hmm. And those, when you see those reactions, they can actually become what they call learned responses for you. You can take those on. Those actually can become your habits as well of how you react to things. And I'm saying react specifically because I need individuals to understand emotional intelligence is about how you respond appropriately versus reacting irrationally. And a lot of times we react irrationally because we're allowing those emotions to direct us versus just using those emotions as data and processing as any other data we process, right? So when I was growing up, I was just seeing a lot of emotions, a lot on the negative side of emotions. And I was also seeing the consequences of it, Kelly. I was seeing the consequences of those reactions. And I said, oh my gosh, that's not working. Why does this keep happening? And so as I traveled through my teenage years and even went to college, because I got a psychology, I obtained a psychology degree. And I was like, how abnormal psychology, you know, mental health, mental illness. I was all in it, right? And so I went on, and of course, after 4 years of college, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm done. I'm tired. But I went into human resources, which is, you know, dealing with people. Yeah, dealing with people in regards to the workplace. And so this is just how I started taking what I learned just naturally through emotional intelligence and then diving into it and actually understanding there was a term to it, emotional intelligence. Oh my gosh, what is this thing? What is this? And I just ran with it. I ran with it. And I know we'll talk about it later, but just how it changed my life and everything that I do. And how I don't want to say convince, but guide and motivate others to see how it can change theirs as well. So I was using EQ at an early age. I just didn't know it.
Wow. Look, so it's you kind of expose us to this, and people have this traditional thought of what leadership is, what emotional intelligence is. Mm-hmm. And when I'm talking with young people, I'm asking them the question, what do you think is more important, leadership and leadership characteristics, or emotional intelligence and your emotional quotient? Mm-hmm. And most people will lead off with leadership. So when I ask, what is leadership? And so just for the sake of the audience here, can you break down leadership for me?
Wow. Okay. So leadership, quite simply, if you are a leader, people should be following you, right? People follow you. If you are a leader and no one's following you, you're just taking a walk.
Love it.
Walk. You, as a leader, you inspire, you motivate, you guide, you encourage, you coach individuals to want to give their best, right? In whatever they're doing, in whatever they're doing. They look to you as a leader, as someone they trust, that if you are walking and they may not even be able to see what's in front of you, but they're going to follow you, right? This is where, as a leader, I'm going to kind of move into more of that CEO mindset. You strategize, you're a visionary, okay? You don't always know all the details, right? Because with your team and your team and your staff, they go through the details. You just make sure that everyone has the resources and tools to execute on your vision, right? To be able to implement and execute on your vision. And this is where I tell people, leaders lead people, okay? You're not leading tasks.
Right.
Okay? You manage tasks. But if you were one who says, did you do that task, Kelly? Did you do that task, John? Did you do that task? Amy and Lakeisha, did you do those tasks? You're a project manager. You're not a leader. Okay. So this is where I always say, as a leader, do you encourage and slightly push people to want to thrive, to be their best, right? Because listen, this is what I say as a leader, if my team does well, if they do well, yeah, pat yourself on the back. You help them do that, right? You helped them do that. Their names are in lights, and you're okay with that. Because what happens in the C-suite, they go, who do those people report to? They report to Nicole Smith. Yes, they do. Thank you very much. Right? Because they're doing well. All right. So if you're a leader, this is what I say also too with a leader, you have a growth mindset, you have courage, and you have heart.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't hear me say you have a big title.
You bet. You talking now, Nicole.
You didn't hear me say that. You have a growth mindset, you have courage, and you walk in that courage. You walk in that fear. That's courage, right? And you have heart, because you have to have empathy and compassion to lead anybody today. Anybody today. And that's a leader. That's a leader. Now, you want to talk about competencies? We can talk about competencies. Competency now entails, how are you assessing your emotional intelligence and you're leveraging it? Because there's a whole bunch of competencies that fall under emotional intelligence. Let's
go. Let's unpack.
Let's see, you have and I'm just going to name just a couple of them off, but emotional intelligence is one of those most important leadership competencies you have to have today. You have to understand your behavior and be able to manage it. Also, to understanding other people's behavior and influencing them. I hope people caught that, because where we get frustrated is them. Why don't they? Why don't they? They should. Okay. Well, sometimes all you have to do is you walk the talk. Okay. And you'll influence others to do the same. You'll have other people start to look at their behavior and go, oh, I wonder how my behavior impacts others. But within emotional intelligence, you got your self-perception, self-regard, emotional awareness, emotional expression. Within, interpersonal relationships, how well do you deal with other people? Unless you go live in an island by yourself, you will always deal with people. Okay, how are those interpersonal relationships? How are your decision-making skills? How's your flexibility? Okay, how is your impulse control? And these are things I measure within emotional intelligence, but how's your impulse control? Decision-making, problem solving? How is your assertiveness? How is your optimism? All right, so it all just comes into there. Also to your social responsibility. Are you willing to work for the greater good? Right? Because it's not always about you and your agenda, but are you willing to work for the greater good of the team, of the community, of society? what does that look like for you as a leader? So there's there's different competencies, authenticity, genuineness in regards to leadership. This is why I always coach on emotional intelligence leadership. And what does that look like as a leader? Because, I talk through my coaching programs, we talk about, tips to be the leader your business deserves and so forth. And a lot of this has to do, like I said, with that growth mindset, courage, and heart.
See, I love where you just went, because here's the thing. I've been fortunate enough to, went through the ranks, supervisors, ran offices as a program manager, run several organizations myself in the military. I was a leader in training and development. So you're talking about thousands of people every year.
Right.
And oftentimes we have this antiquated idea of what leadership is, and using positional power, which doesn't last. And what we realize, and you hammered it, right? Trust. Like if people don't trust you and you're not empowering them, then you're not really a true leader. Your emotional intelligence, to your point, people will go through walls. When I walked in the office, I think I had 168 people who I was leading. And I'm going around, my first hour a day was just going around speaking to people, talking to them.
Correct. Absolutely.
And I know when I say, hey, how you doing? And they say, oh, I'm doing good. But their body posture, back to our emotional intelligence, that something was off with them. I said, come here, let's talk. Let's drill, because again, you need to know your people.
Yeah, that's that social awareness. So within emotional intelligence, you have that self-awareness, which is huge. You have that self-regulation or that self-management. We have to control ourselves, my friends. You have that social awareness, is what I call being able to read the room, right? Read the room, to your point, could be the room. It could be individual people and just their body language or the energy that they're giving off, as well as that relationship management. How well are you at building and maintaining relationships? Right? Can you keep those relationships? That's that trust and rapport. Listen, Kelly, I have a dominant personality, right? It's one of those things where people think, oh, you just worried about getting the job done and executing. Oh, okay, to a point. But I also have that interpersonal part of me as well, to understand that I need people to get the job done. So what do I need to do? What I need to do with the individual, the people on my teams, to say, what do you need from me? How can I support you? Walking around, how are you doing? What's going on? Even as a dominant person who loves checklists and to-do lists, put it down as a checklist or to-do list to say, go talk to my people. And if you have to mark that off your to-do list because it just gives you that endorphin rush, trust me, I understand. But you got to do that. You have got to know your people, learn your people. If you come to me and say, I want to be in leadership, great. And I go, how well are you with people? And then go, oh, well, I'm a people person. Stop right there. Stop right there. It's not about being a people person. Do you like people, genuinely like people, and wanting to see them win at all costs? And it makes people sit back and go, oh, yeah, that's a leader. That's a leader. You got to tap into your emotional intelligence to be that leader.
And you look, how you just talked about, I like checklists, and there's nothing wrong with checklists. Nope. You know who you are, right? But when we talking about being transformative, we're using, to your point earlier, that checklist to check off tasks that need to be accomplished. And then we're using our EQ meter to focus on people and transformation.
Right.
And it's the ability to leverage both.
Right.
That makes you the person who you are. And look, even the lights are lighting up behind you right now because you hitting everything, Nicole.
Yes. And this is the thing is that when you talk about transformation, you get that. And I understand that. But when I go into potential clients and so forth, it's hard for people to grasp transformation because that instantly means I got to change something about myself. And that gets scary at times for people. So what I do is I talk about that high impact, that efficiency. Oh, you were top performer? Okay, let me show you how to make a bigger impact so you can be an exemplary leader versus just a top performer. Because listen, we all have these top performers that get all these 5-star ratings on their performance management reviews and so forth. But when they talk about being a leader, they don't have the skill set. They're not ready. They're not ready because they're too worried about checking off those tasks and being very tactical versus understanding. Now, as a leader, you're going to have to pivot and you're going to have to work with people. And to work with people, you have to understand yourself for you then to be able to understand others.
So, and I can only make an inference based on what you just shared. What you really do when you go and work with organizations, you move them beyond individual accomplishments to changing the culture of an organization. So they move from a bunch of people who are excelling to a well-oiled machine that's growing as a unit.
Exactly. And everyone is able to lean into their strengths to help the situations at hand. And you know and understand whose strength, as well as yourself, you understand what strength is needed to help provide solutions or solve those problems. See, when you know yourself, you know your strengths, and when situations arise, you know then whether my strength is going to be able to help that situation. And if you're a leader, you know whose strengths within your team are going to be able to lean into that solution.
And that requires a person to be humble enough
to
not be leaning into their pride or their ego. And step back and say, you know what? I'm not the person for that. And as the leader of this organization, I don't have to be the be all know all, but the buck does stop with me.
Correct.
But I know how to leverage the right tool to correct or either improve a situation, because every pain point is really an opportunity for that growth mindset that you was just talking about and the growth that comes with it.
Exactly. So people sometimes want to lean into their rightness versus leaning into their strengths. And I used to ask people, now we lean into our rightness, and like, what do you mean? Are you like really hanging on to this because you want to stand in your rightness? I feel I'm right in this. Or are you really leaning into your strength that will be able to help move things forward, whether for you or for the organization? And then when you say that, again, you got to be intentional. I'm very intentional with my words. I'm very intentional with how I lay it on them, because you have to allow it to sink in for them to understand, oh, maybe I am standing in my rightness. And it's that being humble and being okay with letting other people shine and letting other people's name be in the lights. But also too, as a leader, you have to learn how to delegate. And I always say with delegation, you got to inspect what you expect.
There you go.
If I can give it over to you, Kelly, but I'm still going to ensure that you have everything you need to be successful, because one, my name is still on it, but two, your name is on it. I want you to thrive just as me. I guess that's just where, to me, Kelly, I've always been that person. There's enough sun to shine on everybody.
That's it.
You just need to allow it. As a leader, you have to allow it. You have to allow that.
You know what I love, Nicole, is that accountability piece. But even when because I've seen leaders, and let me be transparent as possible. So I was that guy. If I was put up for an award, I'm probably not going to show up because I'm not doing it for those reasons.
Okay.
And an amazing, she's 78-year-old mentor and leader of mine. What she told me was, Kelly, this award is not necessarily for you, although it's for you. It's because those people who you protected, who you provided resources for, who appreciated how you showed up for them, that's their way of showing their gratitude. And when you don't show up, then that's a problem. And I've taken that and really used it as an opportunity to share that with other people. Like, it's not really about me. It's about them extending their appreciation for me.
Right.
And so there's a gratitude in accepting that on behalf of the entire team. And so when you was just talking, it was like the lights had flicked off, because that took me way back a long time ago when that came up for me.
Yes.
And that goes back to what you said earlier. It goes back to something earlier on in my life. And, you know, we don't like to sit with it. And sometimes we have defense mechanisms that's trying to protect us from certain things. And so you have to grow and face that and then move on through that, like water.
Look at you in this transformational journey you've been on.
I think it must be in the UNCC 49
It
award.
must be a UNCC thing. I mean, I don't know, but it's really what you said, how it's something there from your past that's making you feel some sort of way with somebody showing you gratitude, because it may have been shown differently back then it has with the award. Now I can see if you got the award, Kelly, you were like, I like to think no one but myself, you know, I can see it. But you're not doing that, of course. And so, yeah, but one thing you just said that just really stood out when you said the people that you protected. That just, I mean, because I was thinking about when I led teams, I had teams of 12 and 15 and so forth. And I'm going, yeah, I remember someone telling me I protected them. And I'm like, what do you mean?
Right.
It's like literally you stood in between them and the bullets that were coming that way. And that is a good leader as well, you know, falling on the sword for your people and defending them. And what does it say? Praise in public, chastise in private. So it's like, yeah, you know, that word protected, that really resonated when you said that. It really kind of made my hair stand up, because that's a powerful word when it comes to leading your people.
It's amazing that you said that, because when you went to the praise in public, immediately that's what was in my head in that moment. And you just took the word. But again, I think, or I don't even think, I know when we talk emotional intelligence and you connect with people who are on that same frequency and energy level, it's easy to communicate without saying a word. Yeah. And as a person who is a trailblazer in this space, it is really beautiful to see you go down this pathway. And a lot of people don't realize when you started with like self-perception, self-expression, right?
Yes.
And all these things, the other piece is people don't realize when you go backwards, if you're having a problem in one space and you back up on this wheel, you're really kind of backing up into where that problem may be, because if it's a problem here, you may go backwards and they're not going to understand what we're talking about in this moment.
No.
but it's beautiful, because it's like riding that bicycle, right? It's some fundamental foundational things. Once you gain the awareness, it's easy to leverage those tools you were talking about to find out where the root of the problem is.
Exactly. And through my coaching programs, I mean, that's what we do. You know, I talk about limiting beliefs and why are you in your BS? Why are you in your belief system, right? And understanding where those beliefs come from. Listen, Kelly, I always tell people, I said, when you're on that trip of self-awareness, because even though there are 4 quadrants within emotional intelligence, it's not an equal 25% all the way around. That self-awareness, I say, is probably like 75%.
Right.
Because all the other pieces just kind of, you know, fall organically into place. But I tell people all the time, emotional intelligence, if anything, it's going to give you such a sense of emotional power that I don't even know how it'll just change your life. I'll never forget. There was we were at like a couple's dinner or something, and one of the gentlemen was sitting there, and he looked at me, he said, I'm gonna get you riled up. You don't get riled up. You know, I'm gonna get you riled up. What bothers you? And I was like, there's lots of things that bother me. And he was like, No, I want to see you get right. And my husband Marcus looked at him and said, well, obviously you don't know what she does for a living, huh? And it's not that I can get angry. Nothing's wrong. This is where I tell folks, nothing is wrong with showing negative emotion. If you're using it as a data, you can feel it. Because usually the first emotion you feel is the right one. Right? It's the right one. So if you're angry, okay, be angry. Be in it. The thing is are you angry at the right thing or person? Are you angry at the right intensity at the right time? And that's just it. He's talking about getting me riled up. And I'm sitting here going, what am I getting angry about? I don't understand. And that's just it. And when I walked away, and I remember what my husband said was, obviously you don't know what she does for a living. I was just kind of like a little, my ego was fed just a tad, just to be honest with you. But also too, I had such power. Because why am I going to give away that power? Why am I going to give away a reaction to his nonsense, right? And it's so powerful. And this is where, you talk to young children about their reactions to things. You talk to grown people about their reactions to things. And I go, okay, so once you react that way and it's irrational, now what? Now what? And so I keep in my mind, okay, and this is over years of learning of, when I leave the room, how do I want people to remember me? What do I want people to say? Right? I want you to feel my energy. I want you to feel that positive. I want you to feel that peace and contentment. I want you to feel that I have control over my emotions. Again, nothing's wrong with being expressive, but I always say being expressive in a controlled manner. You can show you're frustrated. Oh yeah, I've shown I'm frustrated. I show I'm irritated. I show I'm annoyed. And this is where you haven't heard me say, oh, I show anger. Because are you angry or are you hurt? Are you angry or are you frustrated? Are you angry or are you disappointed? It's like my children tell me, well, Mom, I don't want you to be mad at me. I'm not mad. I'm a little disappointed, but I'm not mad. I'm not angry. Because if you think on the scale of things, angry is like right down there with rage. I don't have any reason to show rage in this certain situation. But the power you have in that, the agility, the emotional agility that you have in that, it's huge. And I need individuals to understand there is such power in your peace and your contentment. There's such power in your emotions. I just now need folks to understand how to leverage that power and to be an influence, to be persuasive. So this is where people need to understand, you leverage that EQ, oof, it will take you leaps and bounds. We just need to learn how to leverage it.
I'm loving it. See, and I don't know if everybody else caught it. One of the things I tell people is that anger never travels alone. It always travels with a buddy. And you just hit all his or her buddies. It's disappointment, it's love, it's frustration. Because in order for me to be angry, it had to be something else. Either you disappointed me, I loved you, you don't love me, whatever it is, but it don't travel alone. And so as you just unpackage that, when people are aware of who they are and why the emotion is triggering them, then we can regulate it.
That's huge. You need to say that again. What triggered you? What triggered you? And why do you keep allowing it to trigger you?
Right.
That's the thing. That's the journey into self-awareness. Even when you deal with people, and then you have to deal with them on a continuous basis, friends, family, co-workers. If for instance, in the workplace, you're getting ready to walk into a meeting with John, and John just annoys you to no end. You just, first of all, your brain is reaching back into past experiences of people that you dealt with like John. Okay, so that's why is John, who does John remind you of? Okay, that's number one. But armor up. Know your trigger. He's going to say something. John's going to cut you off. John's going to roll his eyes. Whatever John does in the meeting, armor up. That trigger. But this is where I talk about, Kelly, that emotional courage. How courageous are you to say, John, I'm not dealing with your behavior today? How courageous are we to say that? It all comes with that emotional intelligence. And yes, you can say that to him, my friends, in a very professional manner, right? So if something triggers you over and over, why are you allowing it to trigger you? You know it. You know that's a trigger. Armor up. This is why I tell people, if you get ready to go into battle, you're going to armor up, right? Okay, you get ready to go towards something that's a trigger of your armor up. Armor up and understand why it triggers you. And now what are you going to do with that data? It's all self-awareness.
Look, when we find ourselves in difficult situations or austere conditions, the first thing we like to say is, you know what? Nicole pissed me off.
Right.
She made me angry. And to your point, I need you to armor up, like Nicole said, and realize that you got to take your power back, because that person don't control your emotions. You are in control of your emotions. So you choose to allow that to happen. That's a choice.
The choice. I agree with you. It is a choice. Why are you choosing? What do they say in the morning? Why you get up choosing violence?
That's
Why you get up making that choice? Don't make that choice. Don't make that choice. And this, this will be another session we have, but that just also too goes around setting boundaries and, setting boundaries. And basically, my friends, I always say this so simple, not today, not today. Stop allowing people to impede in your space. This is where I say boundaries allow me to respect you and me at the same time. Okay. Boundaries allow me to respect you and me at the same time. And so you will respect my boundaries. So that'll be a whole nother session to talk about, Kelly.
Well, yeah, we're going to say that for the next session, but I cannot let what you said a minute ago go away without bringing attention to it, because you hit two very important points. You showed assertiveness.
Yes.
And the other thing was you gave them emotional expression, right? You will
in a very
not
controlled way.
talk.
In a very controlled way.
Yes, yes. And so I hope you all are seeing not only how skilled, how complete her dexterity is, so that you can reach out to her organization to be able to change the culture of your organization. So if you have a bunch of high performing individuals and you're ready to move your company to a high power organization,
right,
you need to follow Sister Nicole, because she gave you just a small fraction of what she has to offer here locally,
yes,
nationally,
yes,
and we're gonna get out of domestically.
Oh, I'm global.
Go even internationally. That's
I'm
right.
Global. I'm global already. I'm global. I'm hitting those global organizations, but that's just to show EQ is not just a domestic stateside thing. It is global. When I assess leaders' EQ, I do measure them against global leadership, because there is a standard. I am not speaking about culturally. There are some things that that is just a cultural aspect of it in regards to how some leaders in other countries lead. There is a cultural factor in there, but in regards to competencies and what research has shown to allow people to elevate to their next level, EQ is pretty standard around the globe.
You know what? And when you think of EQ, and when you think of how they've measured individuals who have shown great leadership skills,
right,
it was their emotional intelligence,
correct,
that was the contributing factor to that. And to your point, even when we talk about how we engage with people, communication is critical. Right. But people fail to realize that, depending on what behavior scientist you're talking to, 70 to 80% of communication is nonverbal, which goes back to your emotional intelligence.
Goes back to that, and how you're expressing yourself, as well as keeping an eye on how other people express themselves.
Yes.
So one thing, Kelly, I always tell people in my coaching, my workshops and so forth, my keynotes and so forth is, IQ will get you hired. IQ will get you hired. EQ will get you promoted.
And you know what? You took me right back to something you said earlier, right? The skills that took you to performing well as an individual are not the same skills that will help you elevate in the organization. It's that emotional intelligence component.
It's emotional intelligence.
And what was it? The great ancestor, Dr. Maya Angelou, said, people will forget what you say, they'll forget what you do, but they'll never forget how you made them feel.
Exactly. Our mind, I just posted something on my social media that talks about we basically move with two different minds, you know, one that the one that thinks and the one that feels. And so and you have to find a balance, right? EQ is not about always having a high number. You have to find that balance. But just like Maya Angelou said, if you make people feel bad, they're not following you anywhere.
Nope.
They're not following you anywhere, and they will always listen. When I do workshops on leadership development, I ask people, raise your hand if you had 2 or 3 good leaders in your career. Probably 5% will raise their hand. But if I say, hey, how many have had 3 or 4 bad leaders? Oh my gosh, 90% of the room will raise their hand, right? Because we remember those bad leaders. The sad thing is that majority of those folks that raise their hand, they emulate that bad leadership. They emulate that bad leadership because that is what they've seen. And they fall into that trap of, okay, to get things done, I have to be authoritative or dictatorship or commanding or, you know, that type of leadership style. And so you make people feel bad or don't feel of value or don't have a sense of belonging, they're done. They're done. Wow. And they're going to move somewhere else. They'll start looking up new jobs on their work laptop. So
inefficiency
and start drafting up their resignation. Let me tell you, I was there. I had a draft resignation letter in Word. I did. Resignation letter was drafted. I said, just give me one good reason. Just give me one good reason. I'm emailing this joker off.
You know what's funny? As you was talking, I was sitting there thinking, people don't leave organizations.
Correct.
They leave people.
Correct. They leave their managers, and they don't realize that, because within organizations I have seen it's easier for organizations to have one person quit, you know, have 2 people quit, have 3 people quit that don't have any direct reports. But good gracious, you tell them they have to fire a VP and they're like, what? I mean, it's like, oh, okay. But what they don't see is when I go in there and consult is like, listen, this leader, I actually had this happen. This leader lost 10 people. What's going on here? Well, you just have a little turn. No, you don't have a little turnover. You have one manager that has lost 10 people. Why are you not looking at that man? Well, you know, he's good in sales. Oh, okay. So it's about the dollar that he's bringing in versus the dollars you just had walk out the door. Okay. All right. So once you let them see where that employee engagement falls and where EQ is not happening within that leadership. Yeah. But it's sad though, Kelly, sometimes I have to convince people. Yep. And that can be a little disheartening at times, but hey, we move forward. We conquer forward.
I was going to ask you, as you was going down that path, because even in that situation, the organization isn't using great emotional intelligence, because even if that person is really good in sales, they lost 10 people. So that means you have vacant positions.
Right.
The amount of money it takes to onboard somebody,
that part,
it's going to outweigh anything he's bringing in. And realistically, as a manager, he's normally not the person bringing in. As you drove it home earlier, it's the people who were doing the work that was bringing in that.
And what happens as well in regards to human resources, this means that the human resources, if they're not seeing that, they don't have numbers or metrics tied or dollar signs tied to the cost of turnover, the cost of onboarding, the cost of employee engagement. And I like to say, I have a nice little spreadsheet when I was in human resources that showed that cost, that showed the percentage of turnover, showed that cost. Okay, so you have got to look at the cost of people leaving. So if I would have human resources not realize that, let's break this worksheet out and let me show you the dollar amount
Yes.
that's costing you. Human resources does not direct the bottom line, but they have an indirect into that bottom line. You just have to be able to show those numbers. And so when they ask, well, what should we do? I got an idea. Let's assess their emotional intelligence. And we can even do 360s to get other people's opinion as well. So yeah, this is where I insert that in, that EQ in, and it's a great benefit. It's a great benefit. And then it's totally up to them on how they want to move forward in regards. So
you know what? It's one thing that was key as you was just sharing that. I'm also looking at, we know we can quantify certain things.
Right.
People have a more difficult time quantifying the qualitative things, which it can be quantified. You know, you got your return on investment, but then what about your social return on investment? If I can't quantify that quality, which we can, but then it's also the relationships that they've established that people are accustomed to. That's another benefit. Then what are the non-financial things that actually equate to financial things that you got to put a little bit of work in it. But
yeah. And that's the reason why they don't have it, because they got to put a little work into it. That's the reason why they just, oh, well, we didn't know the numbers. Yeah. There's Excel spreadsheets and human resources too.
That's it. That
can calculate all of that. You just have to know how to do it.
Wow. So Nicole.
Yes, sir.
I can't leave without kind of digging into this.
Okay.
I want you to provide some closing thoughts and actionable steps for our listeners to create the best version of themselves from an emotional intelligence standpoint, and how that helps the organization.
The first few steps, I always say this. Number one, you have to be ready to dive into that self-awareness. Okay. You have to, with that, you're going to identify your pain points. You're going to sit back and identify just why aren't you moving forward in whatever you're trying to do, or better yet, what is your current state? What is your ideal state? And what mess is in the gap, right? Because sometimes we don't want to deal with the stuff that's in the gap. We just want to jump from our current state to our ideal state. So that self-awareness piece is huge. One of the things that I tell individuals or tell clients that want to come on board, I work with high achievers and top performers, and they are always looking for an efficient, high impact process that's going to help them in their leadership to improve results that are sustained over time. And I pull back and I say, what does your self-awareness look like? And they go, what? How do you identify yourself? What are your strengths? What are your talents? What are you really good at? When you're at your peak performance, what are you doing, right? And it's that self-awareness for them that we start, diving into. So in regards to steps, self-awareness. But with that said, I would move into, assessing their emotional intelligence. I do not just do that in regards to my coaching program. I actually have a 7-step program that I walk through. So Kel, if you want to talk about steps, I have 7 steps that an individual that we walk through with individuals, but I start at the top. And what's your purpose? Why are you doing what you're doing? No matter if you're in the corporate world, education system, academia system, whatever you're in, what is your why? What is your purpose? All the way down to emotional intelligence, understanding your values, your habits, how to move from people pleasing to being, maintaining relationships, also to reigniting that confidence, because the confidence has always been there. Now, how do we reignite it? This is where I tell people being self-aware means you have to recognize how you feel and how your emotions, reactions, and bias can affect the people around you. And that's huge. My friends, we have to understand the impact we have on other people, professionally and personally, because this is where we try to separate the two and they collide all the time, right? So you have to have a clear picture of your strength and your opportunities. You have to have clarity on your vision, clarity on your goals. And once you have that clarity, you can unleash that potential. You can unleash your potential. The last thing I say, Kelly, is, but you want to do it. We all make choices. You want to have to do it. And that's one of the things I tell my clients is, do you want to move forward? Yes. Okay, so what do we need to do to move forward? And they have to understand it themselves. They have to say it themselves. They have to write it down themselves. They have to say it over and over again. And even though I have 7 steps, I have to say you start getting clarity around step 3, sometimes even step 2. That's how efficient this program is.
Y'all heard the program. I gave y'all the teaser. Y'all need to plug in now. So here's how we're going to plug in. Nicole, I want you to give them your website.
Absolutely.
How they can be connected with you.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a newsletter where they can follow you? Because all organizations, if you're here and you're looking, you want to develop your employees, you want to make sure you create a culture that's one that will assure that you will be a high performing organization.
Absolutely.
And you heard it right here. She gave y'all a teaser, and I promise you, if you just look at some of the things we've talked about today, you're going to be better off because of that. However, if you plug into Nicole's programs,
right,
you're going to be able to prepare your organization for sustainability, not 5 and 10 years from now, but we're looking at, what's this, 2020? We're looking 20 years out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because what you're doing also too, is you're working on those short-term goals, but you're going to work on those long-term goals as an organization, as well as that succession planning. You know, you're cultivating a culture that you want 20 years from now. So at JMS Creative Leadership Solutions, we help leaders and aspiring leaders transform from just being top performers to exemplary leaders. Okay. So we start assessing your emotional intelligence. We start diving into your self-awareness. I have a 7-step transform you leadership coaching program, which can be delivered one-on-one, because I do the leadership executive coaching. It can be delivered through group coaching. You can join a group coaching cohort of a max of 10 people. Or, as Kelly was alluding to, we can also do that organizational coaching where we coach as a team, right? We coach as that team. You can go to my website, jmscreatesleaders.com. I am heavy on social media. So on my Instagram, it's the Nicole_Smith. I'm on Facebook at the Nicole Smith. And of course, I'm on LinkedIn, Nicole F. Smith, MED, which is a master's in education. So you can find me on LinkedIn. Also, if you just want to email me, because I love to chat, you can email me at Nicole@jmscreatesleaders.com. It is Nicole@jmscreatesleaders.com.
And every last one of her handles will be at the bottom of the podcast notes to make sure that you have no excuses to do what you're supposed to do, which is make sure your most valuable resource, which are your employees, have access to her information.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you had mentioned a newsletter where you can go on my website. You can subscribe to my website. We are actually working on generating an email campaign. So I will put some of these nuggets and so forth in an email. So definitely subscribe and you will be added to to that list to get those emails. And we can talk about emotional intelligence, leadership development, and just make sure that you are thriving in the workplace, or even if you run your own business, I'll support you in that as well.
Well, audience, I'm going to say this. You have been blessed today with so many jewels that will give your organization a superior customer advantage and give you market segmentation that not many organizations have. So the choice is yours. Are you going to use your emotional intelligence to distance yourself from ordinary people and ordinary organizations, or are you just going to do nothing? The choice is yours. We thank Nicole for her amazing contribution to this platform today. And I want to leave this episode with her closing remarks and not mine.
Wow. I just have to say first, Kelly, thank you so much for having me. I could talk about emotional intelligence all day. And I'm sitting here saying closing remarks. Maybe I should say something profound. But all I'm going to say to everyone is lean into your greatness. Lean into your greatness. We are all unique individuals. We all have been uniquely ordained to lean into our strengths, lean into our greatness, and all be exemplary at whatever we do. Thank you again.